As I sit here painting this Space Marine commission, I find myself contemplating the current landscape with regards to attitudes towards Games Workshop, my own included. How we seem to be in a climate of division where more and more people are split into pro and anti-Games Workshop consumers within the hobby space. Since stepping away from consuming their miniatures and games, I've had a lot of conversations with people on both sides of the fence, and the feeling from an overwhelming many is that they're maybe not specifically pro-GW as such. They just feel like people are maybe overly harsh towards GW these days, or like it's become cool to rag on them. Now, I'm not going to say GW don't deserve to be criticised for the many anti-consumer things that they've gotten up to recently. The amount of bloat in the games, the obsession with printing new books every 5 minutes. We should be talking about these things. But we're starting to reach a point where detractors are shouting at them before they've actually provably misstepped, or redredging things that perhaps aren't actually out of the norm and have been discussed before. I've towed this line myself in the past, and I'll be honest, it's something I'm really not very proud of on reflection. After one particular conversation with friend and mentor Pleasant Kenobi, cheers Vince by the way, I started to realise that a lot of these negative feelings are hinged on the idea that we somehow have to do things exactly the way GW prescribes them. And I definitely was looking at it this way myself. The weird thing is, we already know this isn't the case. We can all agree that stripping content from codices and adding it into supplements is bullshit, that rules testing is often inadequate and that a lot of major mistakes slip through, or that the release schedule is just exhausting to keep up with. We know these things, and of course we should have something to say about them as consumers. If you're familiar with my content, you'll already know that values such as broadening horizons or consumer advocacy are super close to my heart. But it's never been the mission of my channel to be a hater. It's just too much energy, and I'm a busy man. But I fear that this path of scrutinising GW based on a false assumption can only lead to more and more negative energy, and the end result is definitely gonna be bitterness. Again, I started to experience this myself, and it was a real wake-up call for me. Now, I'm not saying we should all give up on the amazing alternative games that we've discovered and go running back to Games Workshop. God, no. Infinity is still the game I love more than any other wargame I've played. It will always be the mainstay game on this channel, and other alternatives to Games Workshop will remain my priority. Nothing is really changing here. But this is our own hobby. We shouldn't be missing out on things that we love or enjoy because Games Workshop have remodeled themselves after the bloody mobile games industry. I was recently gifted this Eisenhorn, for example. I love the Eisenhorn books. You're damn right, I'm gonna paint, display, and love this miniature. Similarly, I'm currently printing a one-page rules army. And of course, I plan to predominantly use the printable models they supply. They're cheap, they're pretty, they're appropriately kitted out for the game, and it supports the creator of the game. It'd be silly not to embrace them. I've gone for the mummified undead faction for Age of Fantasy, which has some incredible collections of Egyptian-styled undead, which obviously are a reimagining of the Tomb King's army that GW released back in the day. But at the same time, if I see a cool undead piece that I want to use for that army, and it's the right model, it looks how I want it to look, should I really be denying myself that from my own hobby because of the brand badge written on the box? I wouldn't think twice about snatching a piece from Mantic Games, for example, like these handsome boys, so why should I let a company's bad behaviour be the deciding factor that dictates how I enjoy my hobby? If you're really trying to stick it to them, then you should be doing it your way. And don't get me wrong, buying Games Workshop minis is probably still not something that's going to happen often. Over the last year or so, my tastes have changed a lot, and current GW stuff doesn't really tick a ton of my boxes. But I think one of the unifying things we all love about this hobby is the diversity of creative opportunities it gives us. And I really don't feel like that's something I want to morally price myself out of. And of course, it's easy to hear this and say, well, you just want it both ways, Shy. Why can't you just stand up for what you believe in? But that's kind of exactly my point. I believe in hobby freedom, in expression. Beliefs often don't neatly align in ways that are easy to live with. And besides which, companies like Games Workshop, what they really listen to is sales figures. Show them clearly what they do well by buying it, and summarily ignore every last unnecessary bloat item, limited run bullshit, and piece of DLC, and you'll be sending the loudest message possible as to what you want and don't want. This is why back when everyone was talking about boycotts, I was firmly on Team No. So back to this one-page rules army. Yeah, if I see a GW piece for it that I want, I'll take it. Same goes for a Mantic piece, or a Reaper piece, or any other piece. That's the wonderful power of minis agnostic games. And the same goes for the rules too. If I fancy a game of actual Age of Sigmar, I'll just use my one-page rules army to do so. I don't ever have to buy into something I don't believe in just to access the parts from that company that I enjoy. To summarise my point, what I've come to understand is that whilst 9th Ed 40k doesn't appeal to me, and whilst I loathe the idea of price gouging through ceaseless releases, constant updates and bundles with no actual discount, but there is still some good stuff going on at GW, and as I've come to realise I don't need to miss out on it necessarily, I'm hoping that maybe you can feel a little better knowing that it doesn't have to be all absolutes. There's nuance to this conversation. You can ebb and flow through it and decide where you stand. That's okay. It's your hobby, folks. Enjoy it. And please consider subscribing. It really, really helps the channel.